rock that beat.
So not long watching the newest episode for Boruto that came out a couple days ago, I finally realized that the current arc that's going on right now is actually a manga chapter being, adapted as an arc for the Boruto anime, and that's cool. Just that's all I'm really gonna say is, that's pretty cool, and just hopefully something comes out of it and something interesting happens. I'm not too entirely sure what it is. That's really the only thing that I know in terms of, the Boruto, manga chapter, and that's being adapted into the anime, and that's really cool and everything. But as I was watching the episode, I started realizing a couple things that I actually really like in these first two episodes that I didn't really pay attention to, mainly because the first episode I feel just didn't do it too well. And they really did it better in this second episode. And it's the fact that the Naruto anime always spoke about how, shinobi would always go into enemy territory, and they would go in there, they would infiltrate, they would go and try to find information, and then they would go and do whatever it is they have to go do. And the thought of that was always really cool, but they never really did that ever in the Naruto anime or manga. They always, would continue having these big battles with, flying jutsus going around and everything. And although that was like super cool as well, we never got to see really any of these smaller moments, besides probably outside of filler, of characters just going out and looking for, information and being restricted and not being able to use their jutsu because, Boruto and Mitsuki and even Sarada a little bit are, restricted to not having to use their jutsu too often, especially Boruto and Mitsuki, because they're infiltrating the prison as actual prisoners. And I just kind of really enjoyed that, and they were able to show that off a little bit more in a little bit more interesting ways within the second episode of the arc, and I actually really enjoyed it because I like seeing these characters having to be restricted, because Boruto himself, even later on in the episode, has to go up into this light tower to go steal the light bulb because some guy told him to go do that, and he would give him information. And Boruto himself mentions the fact that this would be a piece of cake, if he was able to use, jutsu, if he was able to use his chakra to make this just significantly easier. But because he's restricted to not being able to use his chakra or any jutsu, it just makes this a lot more interesting, and it adds a lot more tension, And even though I feel like it's not very, fulfilling in terms of tension, I feel like it adds the extra layer of it just to make things a little bit more interesting, and I really did enjoy that for the most part. Other than that, the whole episode is basically just trying to figure out, Benga, like the second in command's like weaknesses, to try to, get him to not be in control of the prisoners so much, because Lord Mujo, for some reason he just has no say in things for some reason. Towards like later in the episode, after the beginning of the episode, it was really weird. I didn't really understand that, because they're trying to put Kokiri in the same cell as Boruto, so that way him and Mitsuki can protect him. But for some reason, Benga was like, "No, we can't do that, because if we allow him to move cells, then we had to do the same thing for all the other prisoners." And then later on, as the episode continues, they're trying to figure out, how did one of the inmates go and attack Kokiri when he was in the infirmary, right? When he was in the medical ward, right? And then they end up figuring out that there's only one guy that has, this wooden tag, because there are these wooden tags that they have and be able to access these doors within the prison. There's only one guy who can have it, and they figure out by the end of the episode that it's one of the three guys that's in the same cell as Boruto and Mitsuki. And I already have two guesses. It's not the fucking guy that has the mohawk and who is writing a letter to someone. We don't know who it is, but by the end of the episode, we figure out that he's writing a letter to someone. There's this big guy that's within the cell, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say that it's not him, because in the episode we see him trying to protect these flowers as these two guys are trying to have a fist fight, and just in this ground area where they can go and just do whatever. So there's this, guy with red hair. I don't really remember his name. It's probably him. It was probably him. I don't know what his whole deal is. I don't know why he's trying to go after him. Whether or not he's just being told to go do this from some other guy who was in what's it called? I forget what they called it, but he's like locked up in his own exclusive cell between or away from everyone else. It's probably that guy. Most likely, it's just gonna be that guy, and it's not gonna be really that much of a surprise. And then that was the episode. there wasn't really much for me else to really talk about other than what I already just mentioned. I thought this episode was definitely a lot more enjoyable, and by the end of the episode, Kokiri ends up being within the same cell as Boruto and Mitsuki. But other than that, nothing else really happens, and we're just gonna have to wait until the arc continues on with the next episode and the next coming days. So whenever that episode comes out, that's when I'm gonna be talking about it. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the video. The video isn't gonna be very long. It's only about like 6 minutes or so, and honestly, I feel like that's the length of the video should be, because not all too much happened besides a couple of exciting moments within the episode. But other than that, it wasn't really all that much. But whatever, it was an okay episode. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it for what it did do and what I had mentioned before earlier in the video. So without further ado, let's wrap things up. Let's wrap things up. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like, and if you didn't like it, go ahead and leave a dislike. I'll see you guys in the next video. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I'm out. Peace.